The strain of controlling and running the Carpenters' touring show took its toll on Richard, who started to take sleeping tablets.
Well, there were more than one imperfection in the family. Besides Karen's eating disorder, her brother was using Quaaludes, and apparently her mother supplied them. It was a very interesting chapter, I believe, in Richard's book, but I guess no one realized how important these drugs were at the time. She gave them to, because he couldn't sleep at night. His mother gave him Quaaludes, and they're very habit-forming, and they turned out to be great recreational drugs.
He probably didn't need them as much as he thought he needed them, and they were as much a psychological boost as they were a real pharmaceutical boost.
I started to really take more than I should have. I was building up a tolerance. These things had a side effect of giving one a high.
Calling occupants of interplanetary craft. Calling occupants of interplanetary craft.
So if the constant pressure of touring was affecting both Richard and Karen, why did they still keep on working?
Money. They worked that much for money. It wasn't their choice. Money was there. That's show business. When one becomes famous, there's a lot of money that comes at you like people are throwing $100 bills in front of an electric fan. And your first tendency is to make yourself crazy, run it around the room trying to grab it. And if you've got an adult standing on the sidelines saying, these dollar bills are going to stop in 6 months if you don't grab them now, you'll even more frenetically try to grab them.
Carpenters would be on tour for like 250 days of a year, and then as soon as they came home, they were back in the studio and doing some television spot or something like that. So it was a continuous, grueling schedule for years and years.
We would have worried, well, heck, we're famous in 1971, what about 1972? What if someone said, you know, I should take a year off, the way I used to say, I don't think we should take a year off. Well, I don't know whether that would have been a wise decision or not. Then, looking back now, obviously, sometime around there, we needed to take some time off because obviously something was going wrong.
By this time, it was becoming obvious that Karen's health was deteriorating. She wasn't just dieting, but starving herself.
Think about it. In 1970, we've only just begun. Boom, monster hit, they go to the charts. Then all of a sudden, in 1975, 5 years later, Karen Carpenter weighs 78 pounds. 78 pounds. Think about that. I mean, that is skeletal. The girl was wasting away.
I went to see them in Las Vegas, and I couldn't believe how bad I thought Karen looked. She had lost a tremendous amount of weight, and she was obviously exhausted. And they were supposed to go off on a trip to Japan, and I was very concerned.
Karen Carpenter was consuming, at this time, 40 or thereabouts laxatives a day. Normal would be 2.
I actually called the promoter in Japan, and I told him the story, and I had A&M guarantee whatever losses he was going to might incur, and I asked him not to go.
She was so thin that that it almost brought tears to my eyes. I mean, and I didn't know what to say then. It just literally broke my heart.
The bodily signs that would have been seen by people round her, she would have been a dreadful colour. She might have smelt very bad. You can mask the colour with tan and with makeup, but she would not have looked healthy, even if she was made up, coiffed, put together. You know, she just wouldn't have looked right. In extreme forms of anorexia, you produce a fine growth of hair over the body, which is a desperate response to the body to try and keep it warm. Most of the signs will have been the signs around what we think of as normal behaviour around food. You would finish, you'd get to 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock in the morning and say, hey guys, should we have a sandwich and a drink? And Karen will have had half the drink and managed to lose all the sandwich or pick at one corner at it.
Richard realised he had a problem and took a year off to deal with it. But Karen didn't acknowledge her illness, and in 1979 went to New York to record a solo album.
I didn't know that Richard was sick at all. I got a call from Jerry Weintraub, and then A&M, Herb Alpert had called, and they said, would you consider doing an album when you're out here? Let's talk about it as a solo project for Karen. I didn't even think about what that meant until, you asked the obvious question, why isn't Richard doing that?
This was the first time she'd recorded with anybody but Richard. And she deserved the chance to make whatever record she chose to make. And so we were hoping it was going to be great.
You're close enough to touch again.
When Phil Ramone began working with Karen, he was of course familiar and a big fan of the work that she and Richard had done in the early 70s. But he really wanted to take a new approach with it.
My attitude with great artists is to let's adventure forward, because you get typecast and you're now stuck in it. And the mold for her was 10 years old.
The thing that they both pretty much decided on is that they were going to go with a little bit more of a, I guess you would say, sensual take on some of the songs. I mean, even just the titles of some of the songs take a whole new direction. She goes from We've Only Just Begun and Close to You being, their big beginning hits, and now here with Phil Ramone, she's recording Love Making Love to You, Making Love in the Afternoon, and My Body Keeps Changing My Mind, and all of these things.
People always refer to her as Miss Goody Two-Shoes or something like that, like coming out of The Wizard of Oz. And I said, you're 29 and life is around, and whether you've experienced it or not is not the question. Your interpretation of a lyric will be critical.
He did her a favor in one sense. He pushed her in a direction. He said, you can do this. Stop being a little girl. Stop inhabiting those lyrics in this kind of way. Come on. You're over 30 years old. You must have feelings about this. You've got this great voice. Come on, let's do something with it.
The album was never released.
We listened to the record when it came back, and we just felt that it just wasn't as great as she was.
I think the shock value of the din of silence, it was horrible.
I don't exactly remember why, but it was, I'm sure she wasn't real comfortable with it.
I think, frankly, it might have been the songs, the choice of songs. I think everything else is fine, but we just didn't find any songs we really liked in the record.
The one dream she has all the time in her life is to be accepted for her musicality, and to have it all collapse. It's like a playing deck of cards. One just collapses on the other.
I think that Herb and some of the people at A&M really felt as though they were doing her a favor by not letting this album be released. And really, I think she could have definitely handled some jabs from critics better than she could have the fact that these people who she's known and loved for so long were saying, no, it's not even releasable. That was probably, definitely the nail in the coffin, one of the nails in the coffin for Herb.
Long ago, and oh so far away.
With dreams of a solo career shattered, Karen pursued her other dream of a happy family by marrying property developer Tom Burris.
Karen's main focus through the years was on her career, but she always alluded to the desire to have a husband and kids and the whole family, the station wagon and white picket fence.
I was happy that she got married, and I felt as though that might be a real transition for her. I thought this was a very hopeful sign for Karen, and I thought that she would begin to establish her adult life.
I don't think he realized what he was getting into at the time that they got married. I think that he didn't realize what he was going to have to put into the relationship, what kind of issues she really had and what he was going to have to deal with.
It is very common for anorexics to say, but I just want to be married, but I just want to have a child. And they do get married and they do have a child and they go right on abusing food.